It seemed fair enough. But he was careful. He always used a condom, and Missy had been no exception. He'd just been subject to that small percentage of failure. Failure. He hated that. He hated that feeling. He hated that word. If there was one thing he could fault his father for, it was the fact that the man hadn't taken charge. The fact that he just sat there in the shit when everything went to hell. That wasn't who Sawyer was. But Sawyer had to be responsible for his siblings far sooner than he should have had to be, thanks in part due to his father's passivity. If there was one thing Sawyer had learned, it was that you had to be responsible when responsibility was needed. He wasn't a stranger to failing people in his life, but unlike his father, he'd learned. He'd never let anyone who needed him down. Not again. "Marriage," Wolf said. "Really? Unless you and Elsie want a full-time job as a nanny." Elsie snorted, leaned back in her chair and put her boots up on the table, which she didn't normally do, but she was just trying to be as feral as possible in the moment. "Not likely," she said. "Right. Well, so, do you think there's a better idea?" "Reconsider being a single father?" Wolf said. "I am," Sawyer said. "I'm aiming to find a wife." Wolf shook his head. "I mean, reconsider having a baby at all." A fierce protectiveness gripped Sawyer's chest. "It's a little late, don't you think?" "Wasn't too late for Missy to walk away yesterday," Wolf said. "Too late for me," Sawyer said. It had been, from the moment he'd first heard her cry. The weight of everything that he felt on his shoulders when this tiny little thing was placed into his arms. It was difficult to describe. Impossible. He wasn't good with feelings when they were simple, but this was complicated. A burden, but one he grabbed hold of willingly. One he felt simultaneously uniquely suited for and completely unequal to. He didn't know the first thing about babies. Yeah, he had done quite a bit to take care of Elsie and Wolf, and he could see where he'd fallen short. Elsie was just a hair shy of a bobcat in human form, and Wolf suited his name, and, well, big, a little bit dangerous, loyal to his pack, but that was about it. "It's not too late," Elsie said. "In the strictest sense. You haven't even given her a name." No, it was true. He hadn't settled on anything yet, and he knew there was paperwork that he had to do. "You want me to give her back?" He shook his head. "It's not like I have a receipt, Else." "That's not what I meant," Elsie said. It's a hard life here." "And I aim to make it a little less hard." "So you're going to, what, put an ad in the paper?" "Granddad did," he said. And it had changed their lives for the better. The history of Garrett's watch might be rich with failed love stories, but it was a marriage of convenience that had brought real love to the ranch. Their grandmother, their real grandmother, blood didn't matter here, staying mattered, had loved them all with a ferocity their own mothers hadn't managed, let alone their father. She had taught Sawyer to tie his shoes and ride a bike. She'd hugged him when he'd fallen and scraped his knees. She taught him tenderness, and he was damned grateful for it now, because he had this tiny life in his care, and if it weren't for her, he would have never, ever known where to begin. And thanks to his grandfather, he knew what else he might need, however crazy his siblings thought it was. "It's not 1950, Wolf pointed out, though sometimes on Four Corners you could be forgiven for not realizing that, for not realizing it wasn't 1880 even. Time passed slowly, and by and large the landscape didn't change. Sure, the farm implements got a little bit shinier. On a particularly good year, the savings account got a little bit fatter. But the land itself remained. The large, imposing mountains that surrounded the property that backed Garrett's watch.